Yeah, about the same.
Okay, we are ready to start. Barbara? Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Buckhalter Pollock. I'm the chairperson for the Youth Services School and Library Committee. And I'd like to welcome you and thank you all for coming and being with us for this meeting. We have with us today Steve Gonzalez, Yvette Knight, and Andrea Bender, who are going to be presenting to us on the schools that are being constructed within District 20.
Within CB10.
CB10,
Within CB10. And there are many, so we're excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. And thank you for working with us to doing this during the afternoon. I do appreciate that. We appreciate that.
So Steve, do you have a presentation for us?
Yes, I'll share my screen. I'm going to go first over. A number of you had questions on some of the capacity projects, okay? And after we go over those questions and answer, and then I'll go in depth on the active capital improvement projects that we have in Community Board 10. So let me share my screen. And where? Okay, here we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to respond. I know the community board, especially you, Josephine, you sent these questions a number of months ago, and I'm going to go line by line on these questions. Now, the first question you had was about the new school at 6740 3rd Avenue, the future new school, which will be opening up next September, PS 53. You had asked at the time, in addition to the zoning of students, there was a second question regarding the mayoral building zoning waiver. You had mentioned that once the SCA presented to the Community Board 10, the SCA reported the building would be to 4 to 5 stories with the entrance on 3rd Avenue. And you had spoken to the mayor's land use office, who shared that the SCA had requested the mayoral waiver, allowing a greater bulk height frontage on Senator Street. And it was suggested that the SCA return to CB10 to provide an update, which we're going to do, which we did provide today. And you wanted to know, as well as the zoning waiver, you wanted to know why the entrance was moved from 3rd Avenue to Senator Street. So, first of all, what is the expected open date and the target number of students? First of all, the target date, as I mentioned before, is next September 2024. The building capacity, this is going to be a small primary school, will be 307 students. So we could not fit the required school facility within the existing zoning. Now, the rationale with the design team putting the main entrance back on Senator Street rather on 3rd Avenue was, and I'll answer what I sent a question further up, just going down further down here. After we did an early site analysis, we moved the main entrance, was moved back to Senator Street to take advantage. As you know, there's a small park across the street, and there's a fork in the road that would help in terms of ameliorating any vehicle traffic at the drop-off and pickup times of the new school. Now, having said that, I'll go now to the Ovington Avenue High School proposal. Now, the question you made at the time, this was a number of months ago, pertaining to approval process and its status. You also outlined Title VI of the New York State Public Authorities Law. And you asked us, your questions were walking us through the steps of the city approval acquisition process. We did make a presentation to the community board back last May. The community board did vote against the site. In the high school, it was a presentation made before the citywide committee on high schools. You had asked about the site plan for this location being submitted to the mayor and city council. If not, what are the next steps in the process? And if there's a city council vote required regarding in terms of as per S 1732. So as we mentioned in answer back to you, we typically begin our public presentations. We always do through the CECs and the community boards In this case, it was not before the CEC. Since this is a high school, it goes to the citywide committee on high schools. So at the same time that we kicked off our required secret analysis, which are still completion of that analysis is required before we submit the site for acquisition. So I'm going to ask Andrea to discuss in terms of any updates on going before the city council. Andrea?
Sure. Thank you. We're scheduled to go to the Landmarks Committee for acquisition of the Ovington Avenue site on December 5th.
Okay. All right. The next question you had asked was the Santander site K-5 school, which is block 60, 65, lots 28 and 39. It's located at 5th Avenue, 88th to 89th Streets. The two lots amounting to 31,650 square feet for 572 primary school seats was presented in 2021. The area, as you all know, has been fenced. There's no work is underway in the near future. We're still working with DOE to determine the best use of this site. We do not have yet design plans or construction timeline, that I can tell you. 6301 12th Avenue, which is the former Angel Guardian home, which is a future PS 676. This is a 24,000 square foot lot. During the site selection meeting, the SCA presented plans for a tentative 600-seat K-5 school. Regarding, you had asked about construction timeline of completion and updated information about approximate target enrollment design and a location of the main school entrance. Now, as you know, the school is in construction, full speed ahead. We are anticipating opening again. There are no issues, September 2024, with a capacity of 547 seats, including 96 D75, District 75 seats in grades PK through 5. In terms of, you would ask about the main entrance location. I can tell you, after discussing with the construction management team, the entrance of the school is going to be situated on 13th Avenue. And there's a primary reason for that. It is the only entrance that would allow for any kind of bus drop-off pickup. The two side streets, 63rd and 64th, are one-way streets that would be problematic for both drop-offs and pickups. So that's why we are doing it on 13th Avenue, which, as you know, has lanes in both directions. Going down to 650 86th Street, which will be a middle school site. Construction, as you know, is underway. Again, we are anticipating September 2024 opening. And I'm very happy to announce, I was told last week, it's official that a new principal has been assigned to this school. And that new principal will, unfortunately, he can't take residence in the school yet, but he's actually starting January 2nd. So the building capacity is for 475 seats, which will also include 72 District 75 seats. So that concludes the capacity projects. I don't know if anyone has further questions before I go to the capital improvement projects.
Yeah, I was wondering what happened. I must have missed something with the Ovington property. We were voted against that. And then what happened? The school construction authority just said they're going to build there anyway. Is that correct?
As Andrea has mentioned, we're moving forward for Landmarks Land Use Committee of the City Council on December 5th.
So does the SC does not yet own the property, does not own the school yet, does not own the
We do
property.
not own the property, that's correct.
Why did you go to Landmarks?
So that would, I guess that's the committee it's assigned to at the city council.
Oh, okay.
That would review it. So it's gonna go to committee in December, and then from there, I guess there will be a full city council vote at some point in December after the committee meeting.
There will be, yeah, I'm sorry.
I have a question. The school that's opening on 86th Street,
Yes.
where you have the principal has already been appointed. Are you able to give us the name of that person?
Yeah, it's officially, it's been announced. His name is Steve Lombardo. The DOE. The DOE has made they've made an announcement already, yes.
Was he an AP in any of our schools here in District 20?
Yes, he was. He's still, yes, he is.
Are you able to say what school?
I don't have an issue. Why not? He's
Curious, I'm just curious.
intermediate school 201.
Oh, 201, very nice school,
Yes.
very nice school.
I actually had the opportunity to meet with them last week, introduce myself. Very nice young man.
That's great. I like that idea because when a completely new person comes into our schools from another neighborhood, sometimes it takes them so long just to get the idea of how our neighborhood is run and our families, and so being a person that comes from the district, I'm very happy with that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yes, he's from District 20. He's been an assistant principal for a number of years there at IS 201. So he's all excited. So unfortunately, he won't be able to see the building yet. He's going to have to take time until we get our temporary certificate of occupancy, which will be sometime in 2024.
Okay, Steve, so the Santander, I mean, I call it by what was there, right? The Santander Bank site that currently there's no plans for construction, but the SCA does own that property. Am I correct?
I believe, yes, we own the property. We haven't established a design yet.
Okay, so is there a timeline?
I don't have, Andrea, do you have a timeline? I don't have a timeline.
We are working with DOE to determine the best use of the building. We don't have a timeline right now.
So is that the use for a K-5 is off the table at this point? No, that's what they said.
Certainly not off the table. But again, like we need to know from DOE what their goals for the building are before we can design.
But they said they don't own the property yet on Ovington. Is that correct? I want to go back to that.
Wait. No, the original plan was for 572 primary school facility. The response to the inactivity at the site is that the DOE is working on determining what the best use of the site was. So my question was, can it be another use other than a K-5? Like, is it that you're looking at a middle school? Are you looking at administrative offices, or is it still?
Again, we're working with the DOE to make decisions about what the best use of the site is. I certainly don't anticipate it being administrative offices. We do own the site. It would be for a school of some kind. The grade levels have not been determined by DOE. We do own the site. We are still looking.
That was recommended as an alternate site to the Ovington Avenue.
Right, that's right. But they said there wasn't enough at the meeting that we were at. There wasn't enough square footage. This is what they had said at that time. Is that correct?
The Ovington site is larger.
Even though it's going to be a nightmare over there, quite frankly, and the community is totally against it. The entire community. So, and I guess that's not being considered at all, or what?
We've considered the concerns of the community. Unfortunately, there's not another large site available in the area that could accommodate a high school program.
Well, maybe you could go a little outside the area. I mean, this is what came up at the meeting. I don't want to be contentious, but quite frankly, this was discussed. The community is against it. There are other options, or maybe there's a wait and see to see what other properties might come up. This is going to be extremely dangerous and very negative and bad for our community. For that area in particular, residents came to the meeting. They're very upset. It's already a whole deal over there with traffic and congestion. It's very, very nightmarish to begin with. You're going to talk about multiple, not only car accidents, pedestrian casualties, possibly, etc. You're going to have to employ crossing guards, and even with that, it's 4th Avenue. It's very dangerous there. It's just not a good site. It's just not, and you don't own it yet. So I guess that means that there's still an opportunity for that to not happen. Is that correct?
But yet we haven't been approved by city council to acquire the site.
Let me just note, and I do, I was there when the neighborhood did come down and voiced their concerns and their opposition. I will note to you to wait. I know you just made a mention about waiting to see what other opportunities for properties. I stated it very clear at the meeting back in May, and I'll state it again today. It is very difficult to find properties, especially with this square footage, to build a school in Bay Ridge. And I will also note that, again, you have, in terms of high school seatage and high school capacity of the 4 high schools in the District 20, let alone within the Community Board 10 boundaries, all 4 high schools are over 100%. And I'm going to cite those percentages right now. Telecom, which is right down the block, it is the oldest high school in District 20. As you know, it's built in was opened in 1916. It's 100% capacity. The next highest, in fact, the highest percentage of the 4 high schools within District 20 and in the boundaries of Community Board 10, Fort Hamilton, 153%. New Utrecht is 139% and FDR 128%. So as you can see, all the 4 high schools, we have not built a high school in 50, 60 years in this district. The need for a high school is there. The problem is, in terms of waiting to try to find other suitable students. That's the whole issue here.
Area.
Lori has her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Lori Willis has her hand raised.
Hi, I do understand, that siting for a school, just, in the city is very difficult, just because,
Let alone Bay Ridge.
well, that's true too. But there's land and they're not making any more of it and they're building it up more and more. And so it is hard to find these sites.
Sure.
My only, problem with, I suppose, the process, which I understand doesn't really come squarely down on SCA because it's a function of other agencies working together, but is the fact that while you spoke about the schools in our district, Fort Hamilton High School is a very big school. It's as you said, in Bay Ridge, trying to find a spot in Bay Ridge, it's a very big school. But it has a big draw for any child in the city who wants an athletics program. It's one of the very few of the field. Telecommunications is obviously very desirable. And our seating program for high schools does not follow zoning because, while it does give some priority to that, anyone from anywhere in the city can come to any school. So to a certain extent, not your fault, but I feel that the siting process is flawed because it does not jibe with, you talk about, finding sites within a district or finding sites within a zone, but that is not how the children are seated in a school. So equally important is if we put schools in other areas, build new schools in other areas, they're going to draw people from all over the city. I mean, I know plenty of kids who travel into Midtown Manhattan for their high school. They travel into they're spending hours of commuting. So my only problem with this is that to say that there is particularly a need within, either Community Board 10 or even Bay Ridge for a school isn't necessarily true because the people we're seating don't come necessarily from these areas.
But the stats bear it. The stats do show that there is a need. And that's why we are pursuing. That's one of the main reasons why we're pursuing this.
Right. That need is not necessarily a local need. I think that's the point.
Correct. That's
know,
what I was.
That was my point. Thank you, Jill.
That's the point. And there were parents too who raised other issues about the programming and the programming opportunities at a larger school like Fort Hamilton that draws that. Again, this is not the SCA, but certainly the Department of Education could take a look at that. Having a smaller school in the mid-block where there are already 3 other schools was another point that was raised over and over again. And what kind of amenities could be offered at, are we making the best decision? Is it the right decision? And that's in what could be available at a smaller school at this location that would not have the amenities say that other high schools, not only that are found in District 20 within Community Board 10, but even outside of that, were
Right.
raised as important points. And the issue of Fort Hamilton overcrowding has been raised. And the response had always been that it was not an identified need for the very reasons that we're just discussing here, because, it draws from a citywide pool. Local districts are a priority, but it draws from a much larger area, as do most high schools in the city. Yes, June?
I have, what I'd like to ask is, many of our high schools are located by park property, for instance, telecommunications. Why can't we just go across the street and put some of the telecommunications building there?
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other.
I know it's another
you're
project,
talking
but I'm
about
just saying,
open space,
it's property that's not really being used. No one's over there playing or anything. They're not using that, that strip for anything. It's just there.
We've also had other large properties that were available. I mean, I don't know how available the Angel Guardian Home, which, there's
Exactly.
a great need for students at that end of the district, but anyone else have questions?
Yeah, there was another issue raised also, those poor kids in IS 30 having to go into an apartment building on
Right.
top because there isn't enough room in IS 30. Now, what consideration is there for that? Because that's another problem.
Yeah,
And that's
very.
also very close to the location of the high school, which was another issue that was brought up at the meeting, because we didn't really want the high school kids in close proximity there, along with the tele kids close to the kids from IS 30. So that was yet another issue. So a lot of things were brought up at this meeting and apparently haven't really been considered, or maybe they were considered and then said, well, you know what, we considered them, but to heck with it. We're just going to do what we want anyway. It's basically what I get.
Disagree. I mean, and in respect to what you mentioned by S 30 students there, as I noted before, we are building a middle school, a brand new middle school, over at the former Nathan site. So we are addressing the needs of middle school seat need in District 20 at IS 322, which again, it's opening up next year.
You like to ask a question?
Yes.
I have a question. I was told, if I understood correctly, that last November, the DOE told the community board they didn't need any more high school seats in District 20. What changed between November and May when they had the hearing?
Who from DOE conveyed
I'm not
that
aware.
message?
So the question is really in the capital plan, a high school in District 20 was not identified as a need, as a capital need. And they have
Okay.
been meetings in the past where we specifically asked the question about high school need addressing overcrowding, and the response has historically been that because of the way students are selected to high schools, that it's not on a local level, on the local, district wide, it's a citywide process. And that's the reason, basically why a new high school in this district was not identified as a capital need in the capital plan for seats. There's no zoning, right?
I don't know from who from the DOE made that statement.
was-
Let me just finish my thought. I can tell you that the CEC, many parents over the last several years have been lobbying for high school seats in District 20. We've heard it year after year. And again, this is our movement, our mission to try to address an issue that's been brought up by CEC parents who have brought this up at previous CEC. We've done CEC presentations in the past.
So I'd like to jump in here because there have been a number of comments made that I'd like to respond to. We are aware of the community's concerns about use of the Ovington Avenue site for a high school. I would like to note that this is the largest property, the largest parcel of land that has come on the market in District 20 in 3 decades of SCA searching for school seats. That's a big deal, and we felt compelled to use that site to alleviate some of the high school overcrowding that has taken place in District 20. Obviously, everyone on this call knows that the way that schools are enrolled and the way that students are selected for buildings is not SCA's decision. It is DOE's decision, as is the programming of individual buildings. However, the class size law that is being implemented, that was passed by the state legislature, requires us to take a more granular look at schools and overcrowding to reduce the class sizes in each of those schools. So it is true that historically we have not had high school seat need at the borough-wide level in Brooklyn, the borough being the level of analysis that we use for high school seats when we look to determine where high school seats are needed. But when you start looking at individual schools and school districts and more neighborhood-based, which is where the majority of families, I think, are seeking to send their kids, you start to see significant issues in the South Brooklyn area with the kinds of numbers that Steve cited with respect to the crowding in the schools in your area. That is why we feel compelled to utilize the Ovington Avenue site for a high school. It will be intended to alleviate some of that overcrowding at those 4 schools in South Brooklyn. And it is the largest site that has come on the market in District 20 in 30 years. Those are the main reasons why we feel that that is the best use of that site. In addition, the suggestion that we would take parkland for a school use is something that has come up at various points around the city. Taking parkland requires an act of the state legislature, an act of alienation, and it is not something that most elected officials, either at the city or the state level, would support, nor is it something that SCA is in the business of doing. The only time I'm aware of us taking parkland for a school use was to build a pre-K center in a parking lot in Flushing Meadows Park. We weren't even taking parkland. We took a parking lot outside of the Hall of Science. And it was a whole process, and it took us 5 years to do that. So I hope that that addresses some of the comments that have been made and the questions as to why we have pursued this site. Happy to answer more questions.
It seems like building a new school is more to address overcrowding in existing schools than to address new students or students from our district. So I would be interested in knowing how many new students in total we are introducing to the district and how many of those students would be from Bay Ridge proper.
That's a good
So
point.
again, how the building is enrolled is really up to DOE, and whether there's admissions preferences for certain neighborhoods or certain zones, that's not something that I could speak to.
So maybe someone from the DOE should have been on this meeting, you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, but they did talk about that at the other meetings. I
They-
sat on the 3 meetings and they said they cannot determine that. They cannot give us prior information. They basically can't tell us anything. That's what I got out of the meeting. They can't say who's gonna, people specifically asked, can it alleviate for Hamilton? Can that specifically be used for that? And they said no. So that's your answer, no. Sorry, but that is the answer.
Lori has a question. Lori Willis, you have another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to, just, over the years, every time we sit down, a meeting, to put in our input on the siting of a school, we end up in this conversation like every time. It doesn't make sense. It's sort of, in terms of, we always say, oh, well, maybe someone from, DOE should have been here, et cetera. But, when we're talking about taking a more granular look at the use of this site, and that we're compelled to use the Ovington site to alleviate overcrowding. Again, the overcrowding is coming from the city. I don't believe it's really coming solely it's not coming solely from our district, because the children of our district aren't the only ones going to these schools. So that's not really why this is the best use of this site. It may be a reason. Look, you're tasked. Do they say, look, DOE says, look, these are our numbers. You guys go find a site and, you know, go to it and find somewhere we can put these kids. So I do understand that the size of the lot is very attractive. I don't believe that if we're taking a granular look at the use, and we're really talking solely about use, and we're talking about siting, and we're talking about how this is going to work, right? Because you're a construction authority. If we talk about the construction, the size of the lot is very attractive. The accessibility of the lot is horrendous. So to try to bring it back to what's supposed to be the point of this meeting, the accessibility is horrendous. Right now, Ovington is such a crowded block. If somebody double parks, it's over. You can't get in and out. And I think that we talked about this, you know, many times from, you know, the first time that it was ever the concept was brought to us, you know, of moving students in and out of this school. And there really, you know, aren't many access points like, you know, a Fort Hamilton has many frontages and it's very easy to work with. You've got Shore Road there. That's not the situation here. And while this might be, you know, not used by as many students, it's a nice sized site, but, you know, oftentimes the situation of the site doesn't lend itself to a high school use. And I think that that's the case here. I don't know really how you get the kids in and out. And inevitably, whether you like it or not, there are parents who pull up and drop their kid off right in front of the school, and like just the huge amount of, you know, vehicular traffic that's going to go on there, also giving a nod to the fact that this is a residential street. I mean, there are some other uses on it, but there are residences here. I don't know, you know, what type of construction gymnastics you can do to solve that, because the street is still the street. You can't move everyone else off the block. You can't move the attendant uses that are going on in the area, you know, that already make that a congested block. So I am very interested to know, you know, do you have anything, any kind of concept, you know, for moving people in and out of that spot that will not, you know, cause basically the school to actually usurp the use of that street to the exclusion of the people who live on it and anyone else who may need to traverse it during school hours.
Sure. So we have a lot of experience building on very tight sites in very residential areas on very narrow streets all over the city. All day, every day, that's what we do. I can't say that there won't be any construction impacts to the community, but we always do our best to minimize the construction impacts to the community as much as we possibly can. I would say that we do not have any information about what the construction logistics would be like at this point, as we haven't started a design on this building since we don't yet own this property. So we haven't started design. We would know more once we have a design plan, that we would understand more what our construction staging and logistics would look like at that time. But until that time, I really can't say, other than we always endeavor to do our best to reduce the impact on our neighbors.
Well, it's not, I wasn't really talking about like during the construction phase. I'm talking about just the concept, considering the concept of really like an environmental impact view of it, if you would, in terms of just straight up logistics of moving students and, you know, in and out of this building on a daily basis down this block. I mean, you can situate the building any way you want on within the lot lines, you know, that's nice. But I'm talking about, if you're talking like more like an environmental impact on traffic, down, up and down, you know, and around that area. if you have any concept of that, because I do think it's a consideration in citing. I think it has to be a consideration in citing.
Sure. So we did an environmental analysis that showed no significant impacts on traffic.
Oh, seriously? You have to be kidding.
Yeah.
You have to be kidding. That block is so congested already. And I'll tell you my own personal experience.
Yeah.
About 2 months ago, so I had to go to Midwood or somewhere, and I decided to come back on some side streets, and I passed a school somewhere, it was like in Bensonhurst, with a very crowded one-way street. There were 2 accidents. 2 people hit each other, not me, thank goodness. I could barely navigate. It took me 40 minutes. 40, I counted, to get down that one street.
Wow.
40 minutes. I was so aggravated. And that was in Bensonhurst. So don't tell us, because we're smart people, don't tell us that that is not going to have an impact on that street, because it is. And if you don't live here in Bay Ridge and you don't drive around this neighborhood, you don't know. You can do all the studies that you like. But I'm going to tell you, we're residents that live here and drive around these streets, so we know what it's like on a day-to-day basis. And for the people that live there, it's going to be even worse. How are they going to get out of their driveways? What if, God forbid, there's an emergency? There's an ambulance. Someone has to go to the hospital. What's going to happen then? And it's at release time or drop-off time. Those are considerations as well. And these are things that have to be thought of. So I don't think that any of this was taken into consideration, quite frankly. I've spoken my piece. Thank you.
All right, Barbara.
And there, I believe there's a fairly large medical facility that's located very close to the senior
NYU.
Oh, yeah, you're right about that. That
Okay,
too.
anyone, Victoria?
I just wanted to say that I live around the corner on Fourth between all the schools, and I'm the person that put together all the seats with the oversaturation of these blocks, and the traffic is horrific. There's going to be reconstruction on the BQE. We're gonna get more traffic. They're talking about us putting a 7-story shelter on the other corner.
That's another
It's
thing.
insane, and I have asked, I requested a while ago, but unfortunately summer hit, to have a traffic study done by the community board, because I don't believe any of this, and when I did that analysis, I did not include OLA, which is now adding another school that's gonna be renting from them from 3s and 4s. I was on 102's block a few months ago to pick up one of the kids. They were double parked cars, the ambulance could not get by. That's twice as wide as Overton. But what I did listen to also at that big meeting was the residents, and there were people in the block who are closer than I am, who are very concerned about that. So I don't think you can just pick a site for a school because it's big. It's not, like, doesn't make sense to me, especially when you have another building that you purchased. So it's very disheartening, and I hope that we can fight this from becoming a reality.
Okay. June, I'm sorry.
I just have one question. I noticed every time I'm on 86th Street, 87th and 88th Street, there's always signs on the Century 21 buildings that they were for sale. Now,
Oh, yeah, it's a commercial use, that there are plans, I think, or visions in the works for that.
Yeah,
I mean, you
that's
could
right.
just
And
go
that's
right
really-
through and
Right,
3 blocks.
Yeah, you
okay.
can't.
All right, I guess Barbara, we'll turn it back to you, Steve, for the second part of your presentation.
Well, that ends with in terms of the capacity projects. We do have capital improvement projects within Community Board 10. I'll list the schools and where what the progress of these projects and the description.
Do you have slides, or is it?
No, I'm reading this off. I brought the chart here. I'll just read this off. PS 104 Brooklyn has a boiler conversion plan, New York NYC climate control, their COVID ventilation project. That project has just begun. We anticipated construction end in the spring of 2026. PS 127, you probably have seen. We have a huge exterior masonry roofs boiler conversion project that is anticipating end of 2024. PS 176, ongoing exterior flood elimination roof parapets project. We anticipate next summer substantial completion. PS 185, we have 2 projects there. We got a COVID ventilation. The COVID ventilation, that was that project's been done, that finished, and then we have the flood elimination roofs and exterior masonry project, that's ongoing. We're looking at next summer. Telecom, that still has its design hasn't been awarded yet. It's replacing burner controls at the school. Fort Hamilton has two projects, has a low voltage electrical system project, anticipation spring of 2024. Wastewater system, sewage system project, anticipating end next fall. Again, to be decided, we have other projects, bathroom upgrades, water main replacement, and a steam system project at 187, but they haven't been awarded, so we don't have a timeline yet on those projects. Projects in design, we have also at PS 185, it's classroom flooring, but that hasn't been awarded yet. Fort Hamilton, they have a flood elimination heating plant upgrade project, and they also have replacing water main valves. Again, those jobs are not off yet. Again, Telecom has an exterior masonry roofs project that yet has not been awarded. We also have what we call Reso A projects. That these are small projects that are funded by city council members and the borough president's office. We have in construction, let's see.
Oh,
And we have this since July 1st of 2019, we did a Reso A playground upgrade at PS 264, PS 170. We did an auditorium upgrade that was completed 2 years ago, and PS 176 we did what we call a Reso A makerspace lab project there in terms of Reso A projects. And we have in design an auditorium upgrade project at PS 264 that was anticipated finished design very shortly. IS 259 is upcoming month, a science lab upgrade, and Reso A projects in this construction. We have a PS 69, which is on 9th Avenue, a playground upgrade, forecasting end next summer. This is the school of your chairperson, Ms. Kapatanakis. PS 185, we have a supplemental cooling project. Anticipate that should be finishing up. Well, that's finished. The supplemental cooling project that was done. IS 201, we have a room conversion in terms of a music room. That is, we're anticipating finishing up that project at the end of the year. And then we have a Reso A new camera project, also at IS 201. That's also anticipated to complete at the end of the year. So that completes my report of Reso A projects and capital improvement projects in Community Board 10. So I'm finished if you have any questions on that. Otherwise, I'm done. Thank you.
Barbara, any questions?
I don't have any questions. I don't have all of that information. So.
I have a question.
Yes, yes, Dorothy.
PS 264 that only opened, what, maybe 5 years ago? I heard
Yeah.
that called times
Yeah.
on the list. Need upgrades.
No. 5 years ago. No. It's longer than that. It's
More than that?
no. It's no. It's closer. No, it's close to 10.
So when we're in the design phase, do we not have the foresight to see what we might need in the next few years? So that we don't have to go back so quickly?
Well, as you know, the PS 264 was a brand new school. I guess, at the time they wanted a new project there at the school. Again, when we do these projects in design, these are determined by our consultants. A lot of them, in terms of they do studies. We have building conditions assessment surveys that are done, and based on those surveys, based on our consultants, based on the needs of the school, they can seek in terms of funding for a new project. They can go to the council member for a new project, and a lot of times the council member staff will go to the school and they will research and see if that project's needed, and they will make the funding for that project. And again, that's the request of the school. They make that request in terms of RESOA funding.
Thank
Right,
you,
so
Steve.
at PS 264, which opened in 2012, all of the projects that are being done there are reso projects that are initiated by the school and the council member. None
Yes.
of them are plan funded projects that would have been something that would necessitate an upgrade.
Thank you.
Lori?
I have a question just in general, about these meetings. So what I experienced over the years in these meetings is like, you guys get on and like, we all yell at you and you're like, it's not our fault. And we're just building stuff. Okay. They say, look at the site. We put in a bid. Maybe we get it. Maybe we don't. And like, we just, we're building stuff. And it seems to me that, it's always the case when we're dealing with agencies, look, whoever's like on the screen or, in front of us doing the presentation, like you just get unloaded on, whether it's your fault or not. So to make these meetings productive,
Sure.
it's our job, right? Not necessarily to unload on you, but to really tell you what goes on in our community, right? Because there have been times when we have been giving input on a school building when, we do point something out, and I see.
And we do appreciate the feedback. May I add?
Like writing it down. Like sometimes it's
Yes,
like, we didn't know that.
And
But, the part I think of the problem is it's a larger problem, which is that, like you said, look, we just build the buildings. We don't decide who's going to be going there or whether or not they're from your district or whatever. We're told, look, we need a building and we need, this many kids in it or whatever. So in order to make this more productive, because you've been doing this for a really long time, what do you really want to hear from us? Not like, oh, I'd prefer that you don't say anything, but like what
I don't expect
most value added?
We don't expect. Look, we understand your role. We do see you as a partner. We do see you as getting, as you mentioned before, getting valuable feedback. So we do appreciate, any information that you do provide to us. In fact, in the past, we've asked for your assistance, and I know that Josephine has made suggestions in terms of finding new sites within the community board 10 boundaries, and we do appreciate that. So, believe me, I don't take any umbrage of getting shot at.
Fun though, right? But like the Ovington School, I really feel like, as talented as a design team, as you may have, just
Right.
the fact that you've got that frontage on Ovington and just moving kids in and out, like, unless you're planning on like maybe like a helipad or some jetpacks, not everything can be overcome by design. And if you've got a great piece of property in a mid-block and you just basically don't have access to thoroughfares, it's I don't know, can you get an easement somewhere? I don't know, but like is that even this is going to be tough. It's going to be tough if it happens, which it might. I understand there's the concept that was voiced by some people that, hey, having, it's the only site we found and better open a school now rather than, pass up the possibility and have to wait another 20 years or something. I don't necessarily subscribe to that because I don't think just because there is an opportunity makes it a good opportunity, but some people feel that way. And I get that viewpoint, but I don't know. If it goes through, I wish you luck in trying to design how to get everybody in and out and do so safely and, without really to the detriment of the other people who were there before the school came, right? Because you have to give consideration to, their use and enjoyment of their property, I feel, but.
Thank you for your comments, Lori.
Thanks.
Julie?
That's me.
Yes.
Just want to ask a very direct question. So your comment was, Steve, that you really appreciate what
We
Lori
do.
said. So my question is, you appreciate our comments. What are done with those comments that we make? Who do you go to and relay our comments? Who is the person or who are the people to whom you relate what we have said? And can we speak to these people? Because this is like, to me, and I'm not on the community board, I think I'm on it 3 or 4 years now. It's like a vicious cycle. It always seems to be like it's going like this all the time. Instead, we're not resolving anything. So who exactly do you bring our comments to?
So I'll take that. So we have a real estate division that's tasked with making sure that our acquisitions are following Section 1732 of the Public Authorities Law. They have the resolution that the board passed. I hand delivered it myself. The project file includes all comments that are received during the 45-day comment window, which is anyone who writes into our email address that's posted on our website, that's given out in our public meetings. It includes minutes and notes from our public meetings. It includes anything that the board or CEC provides to us, or anything that is mailed to our office. So we have all of those comments. We take all of those comments and we analyze them against the needs for the school and the needs of the community. And we make a decision about how to go forward or not go forward in that instance. So we have your comments. We have the project file with all of the comments.
Who is we? Who is we?
We, the School Construction Authority, has all of those comments and all of
But
those.
you said before that it's the DOE, you said, that makes the final decision. That's what you said. You said you guys just held.
There's 2 different processes that happen. The first is the site acquisition. The site acquisition is governed by Section 1732 of the Public Authorities Law. That's the process that we come to you for when we do our public review. It requires a vote at City Council, and that is all happening prior to design. We have acquired already the site at Santander. We went to public acquisition for an elementary school, as folks will remember. DOE is still evaluating if they want to use that for an elementary school. So if they do, we will go forward.
You're not answering my question. I'm very sorry. With all due respect, you're not answering my question. I'm being very specific. You take our comments and you go to whomever. You said before yourself in the meeting, with all due respect, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little heated here because I want an answer. You said that you don't make these decisions, that it's the DOE. Who is, and then you also mentioned the city council voting on. I want to know who is making the final decision on the site of the school. Who has that right or that ability? I would like to know who that person or who those people are. That's my question.
Okay. Are you talking about in the acquisition phase or the programming phase?
No, I'm talking about acquiring the site. Like, for example, the site on Ovington Avenue. It's not acquired yet, right?
Correct. The site is not acquired yet. So the decision prior to us commencing public review, prior to us coming to you earlier this year, was a collaboration between the Department of Education, Office of District Planning, and the School Construction Authority, in which the 2 agencies together determined that based on the size of the parcel and its proximity to multiple overcrowded high schools in District 20, that its highest and best use would be for a high school, at which time we filed our notice of filing in the city record and AM New York and presented the site plan to this community board and the citywide council on high schools pursuant to Section 1732 of the Public Authorities Law.
And we voted against it.
Well, we're advisors.
And we advisor. So who is deciding? I'm trying to get the answer. Who is deciding the school's going to be built there?
I would be perfectly happy to. So concurrently with our public review process, we conduct an environmental review analysis. At the conclusion of that analysis, we bundle together the comments, the site plan, and the environmental analysis and submit for acquisition to the city council. The City Council Landmarks Committee has jurisdiction of public sightings, including SCAs. We will be appearing at the City Council Landmarks Committee on December 5th for permission to acquire this property.
So you're saying the city council is going to be the ultimate vote?
The City Council has discretion.
Oh, she froze. She froze. She froze. Yeah. So Justin Brannon's one of those people.
Yeah.
Right.
Do they all?
She froze, yeah. Oh, they all froze? I'm sorry. I hope, with all due respect, I have to ask the questions. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
don't know if Angie's coming.
I have to. Yeah, what happened?
She froze, maybe her.
Is she the only one who's
connection.
frozen?
Steve, can you hear us?
No, we're not all frozen. I'm Yvette Knight. I am the director. And to continue Andrea's comment, she was to comment that we will be going to council and they have an opportunity to make a decision.
So they could vote yay or nay, either way. And how many people are on the, because I know we have our own councilman. How many are there in total?
I'm not sure they have the exact number of people on the landmark council, but they will make a decision, yay or nay.
And the problem is a lot of these councilmen, they're not from our area. So most, except for Justin.
No, but it's the local council member.
It's the,
who will, comment.
Andrea, are you back? I did just tell them that we will be going to council and council will be making a decision.
so they'll be the ultimate deciding vote.
That's correct. Sorry about my internet access. I don't know what's going on.
That's fine. Barbara?
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, I'm sitting and listening to all of the comments. It would be nice if community boards could have more of a collaborative input with the agencies choosing schools so that we weren't so adversarial when it comes to the actual siting, but had some input into the site selection and
those people.
If there's been, unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but there is a process that, by law that we
must follow.
must follow. And we're advisory.
Yeah, that would probably take like an amendment to like the city charter and some other things that's not probably gonna happen. But I think that Julie, maybe, if you should take it to, obviously take it to the councilman.
We must.
I'm sorry, we have a public question?
Yes, I know that the construction authority have made quite a number of comments about the unavailability of large sites to site a school at in the Bay Ridge area.
That's correct.
We've discussed the Santander site. It's still under consideration for best use. I looked up on the tax maps, the boundaries and the areas of the lots that comprise the site, and the two lots combined are 32,000 square feet, which is a larger site of land than 22,000 square feet at the Ovington Avenue site. I'm wondering if there's been any consideration to that as to citing a high school there, which I'm neutral on, and given the opposition of many in the community, it could possibly be a better site because of its proximity to transportation, its location on corners, accessibility to buses and subways, and henceforth.
So the Santander site was considered for a high school use. The Ovington site is 4 different parcels and is larger than the Santander site, which is why it was ultimately decided that the Ovington site was more appropriate for a high school than the Santander site.
Would you have the block and lot numbers of those 4 parcels?
I don't have them at my fingertips, but I could share them.
That would be great.
Sure.
Yeah, we have them at one math at one point, but let's look that up too.
I'm sure we could probably get that right now. I thought that, what was do you know the total square footage of the Ovington site?
60-something thousand.
Was it?
I could be wrong.
And she's gonna pull the folder.
Steve, is the square footage of the Ovington site in that email summary?
I'm gonna look. Let me go look. Let's see here.
One, the Santander was like 30 some odd thousand. But then, oh,
The
40,
Santander site, the two lots amounted to 31,650 square feet. I don't think the Ovingtons, no, the Ovingtons, no, I don't have the square footage on Ovington.
35,470 square feet.
Again,
Did you hear me?
the Ovington site is 4 separate parcels.
Yeah, we have that. I think it's.
Yeah,
on there.
yeah. The addresses are 441 to 447 and 425 to 439 Ovington Avenue.
In the public notice that was provided to the board, in the New York City School Construction Authority notice, it says the proposed site is approximately 35,470 square feet.
That's right, 35,470.
And Santander's, I think it's 32,000.
31,50.
Right, the Acros map numbers are different than the square footage is a little, comes in higher. Than what was listed on this. It comes in at about 32,000, which is a couple hundred square feet different.
1,000.
Which is why, you know, many in the community saw the difference at only about 3,000 square feet.
So it makes no sense to not build it in the other location.
No.
Well, you won't have the congestion, you won't have the issue, you don't have residents, residential properties there on Fifth Avenue and 88th Street. You have the post office, you have businesses. Plus the zoning there, can't you build higher even over there? You can build higher. So I don't get it. What's the explanation for that?
Oh, they just said it was looked at in means.
Yeah, but why? Yeah, I'd like to know the answer to that, personally.
The answer is that it's a larger parcel.
No, not marginally. Marginally larger. How many more students would you get in there versus in the other location?
And if you higher, you can accommodate that difference in size.
Right.
So that's not a real answer to the question.
Correct.
If you have the ability to build height, you make up for a lack of square footage.
The Santander site is not a square site, a rectangular site, the way that the Ovington site is, and cannot accommodate a competition-sized gym that a high school program demands also.
Okay. I'll send that out. Thank you. All right, Barb, I'll turn it back to you. Any other questions? I think
Anybody else have any other questions? Thank you for your time and for
thank you all
joining us for this meeting. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you very much. And have a great day. Thank you, everyone.